Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens. We are here today with Willie Dickerson, who is a grassroots board member of Results, which is an international advocacy organization working to end poverty. Willie, you have had a unique and powerful tool that you leverage to communicate with our members of Congress, and that is writing letters to the editors of our newspapers. You have written over 1,000 pieces of media and are the recipient of the prestigious Cameron Duncan Media Award. Willie, we thank you so much for your phenomenal work in ending poverty and for being here with us today.
Good to be here.
And Willie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to become an advocate for those fighting poverty?
Sure. I grew up in a close knit family of five. My dad was in the service, so we moved a fair amount, and that got us even closer till I was just about in junior high. He retired. But both of my parents always taught us doing for others was the best thing you could do with your life. And my older brother, who was part of Results for 20 to 30 years before he passed on, really inspired me to work with Results. He tried a number of other um, advocacy groups and nonprofit organizations and found that he was most effective with Results. And I found the same thing. So that's why I'm. Plus, the idea that all these children are dying, and we have the power. Our country has the money and the necessary um, ability to change that, and indeed. More than cut in half the daily number of deaths, but there's still a lot of work left. There's 15,000 dying every day. So under five, preventable. And we can change that.
And Willie, not only do you meet with members of Congress regularly, but you also write letters to the editors to bring attention to poverty across the US and across the world on issues like affordable housing, tax credits for low income families, and effective global health initiatives. Can you tell us about your letter writing work and what motivates you to write a letter almost every day?
Yeah, letter writing is one of the most accessible things for everyone, especially now with computers. You can write your letter anytime, a day or night, and send it without disturbing anybody. And I started writing almost 20 years ago now, and found that it was a great way to uh, reach out to my members of Congress via the newspaper. And so that made it exciting for me when I got something published. And then I realized even if it wasn't published, somebody had to see it and make that decision. So at least one person, and I'm guessing more than one, were often uh, seeing what I had to say, and even more when it got published. The letters to the editor are actually read more often than the editorials or the columnists. People like to know what their peers are thinking. And so with my brother's mentoring and looking over my early letters, it really helped, and I became a better letter to the editor writer. And when I first decided to really write a day, I decided, okay, I need motivation. I'm going to write before I get to eat in the morning. And that worked really well because I love to eat. And then I noticed after a while it wasn't so important because it became a habit. And habits are our friends when they're good habits, like writing letters. And now my day just doesn't quite feel complete unless I write a letter and send it in. So,
Can you share with us your most favorite moments of your advocacy work?
Favorite moments are always being with the other results volunteers, especially on our regional retreat is a wonderful time, but also in Washington, D.C., and in various offices meeting at home. And being in the halls of Congress really remind you of how accessible our government is. And it's um, very exciting to be meeting, for example, right outside the House in an area you can't be in, the House of Representatives, unless you're with one of the staff members. And I've met in the tunnels on a ferry boat with former Representative Inslee, now governor of our state. Uh, when he was doing his commute, we got on the ferry and then rode back with him one time and had our meeting on the ferry boat. Another time, he had to go in for a vote, but he said, "Come with me as far as you can," and uh, was able to have our meeting then. So, and then another time around the tsunami, my representative at the time, Norm Dix, heard the story. I told him the story of how the hospital ship had gone out to help. And I'd seen the slideshow from one of our results members, a doctor who was among the first civilians ever to be invited onto that naval ship. And he said, "I want to see that." And so I arranged for Scott Leckman, uh, former chair of our results board and current member, to show him that slideshow. And he said, "I can get that boat out there again to do that kind of thing." And he did. So you never know what's going to come of what your meetings have bring about.
And how often, when you meet with members of Congress, you talked about, your many experiences with them and your many meetings with them. How often, when you do meet them, do you come across comments from members of Congress that they have read your letter and that it has influenced them? And how often do you feel that that brought about the change that was needed at that time? And can you share with us some of your success stories that have stemmed from letters to the editors?
Sure. Um, Maybe one of the most exciting things was when we were working on the Reach Every Mother and Child Act, and the Republican sponsor in the House had a staff member who was working on that particular thing, and I contacted him, and we were deciding what we needed, and he said, "Well, I could really use a letter in Minnesota." Uh, and so I said, "Oh, okay." And I wrote to a Minnesota paper. It got published. I sent it to him, and he said, "Thank you so much. That brought on the congressman that I was trying to get from Minnesota, seeing your letter." Um, and then also, when they are mentioned by name, uh, being a member of Congress is kind of a thankless job. You don't get thanked very often. And so that's a great way to write a letter, is in gratitude for something that's happened. Or uh, about a year or two ago, I wrote a letter about my congresswoman who had held a town hall when many people were not holding town halls. And I wrote and thanked her for doing that, and particularly for being a co-signer of one of our issues. And not only did the letter get published, whenever their name's in it, they're going to see it. They have people that track where their member appears. And so I know they saw it. And of course, I always send them to them, whether their name's in them or not. Uh, but they liked that particular letter so much, they put it on their Facebook page. So anyway.
And your letters that you talk about are not only influencing policy for a better and a more equitable society, but they're also sparking powerful conversations. And, these are conversations that we normally have with friends at school or debate tournaments or conversations on family couches while watching the news. And through your letters, you're taking these daily conversations into the media and having that same conversation with our newspaper editors, the public, and our members of Congress. So, how do you think that more people, particularly teenagers and youth who are younger, can enter this world of powerful media conversations?
Well, they could attend the webinar that you're about to lead on writing a letter to the editor, which will be recorded, I believe, and available for them. But also, uh, joining results, of course, is a good way because there's a lot of guidance and help, mentoring available for learning to write a powerful letter. Um, and also, you can just jump into it. The great thing is, editors are looking for letters, and they love letters from young people. Young people too often have a reputation of not caring or being too busy on Facebook or whatever, the current media, TikTok, whatever it happens to be. Um, but I, it's write letters and send them in and learn from what happens in your letter, or email me and I'll be glad to help you if I can. And speaking of Facebook, my former member of Congress before the last census, which changed, my member changed with the census because Washington State got another district. But he always said, practically the first time I saw him, he said, "Oh, thank you for positive comments on Facebook." So that wasn't even a published letter. That was just, doing things, being positive on his Facebook page, especially when there's a lot of negativity there. So anyway, and members of Congress and senators. I once went to a coffee with Senator Murray, and where constituents from her state stop in DC and have a chance to speak with her in a large group. And I think the person who got the most attention was an 11-year-old who was talking about veterans and a veteran cemetery that he had cleaned up and was asking for more money for care for veteran cemeteries. But I believe it was that she cares about that issue, but also his youth really impressed her that he would care at that early an age. So they're looking for you. You just need to take a step.
And, continuing on that, having teenagers sort of take that first step, what would be your message to teens during these difficult times, and how can they be change makers?
Yeah, these difficult times is so true. We all have, my dad used to say, you have the same 24 hours everybody else does when I was feeling too busy. But it seems like we're spending more time at home and looking for things to do. And here's something you can do. The results website, for example, has actions anyone can take and gives you ideas of how to write a letter or how to take an action. For example, today uh, on the 20th of July, there's a call in or tweet in or however you want to communicate with your member of the Senate, asking them to take action against hunger in America by increasing the SNAP program, formerly food stamps, which has been a hard battle these last 4 years. And in the first 3 months of the pandemic, 6 million new people applied for food stamps. So it's a really important program. And when our members of Congress and senators hear from us, it matters. Constituents have the most power, studies have shown, with their members of Congress. And power and influence, not just the regular lobbyists who get paid for what they do, but everyday people. And uh, as I said before, teenagers, I believe, have some of the most power. I mean, there are so many good examples of people like Usri who have taken initiative and are listened to and inspiring others. And of course, there are some on the world stage like Malala and Greta and others. There was a young boy from Africa who had the AIDS virus, and he gave a speech before the UN talking about we are all the same. So you never know when what you uh, share is going to get picked up. The woman who runs the food bank in my little town in Washington State got a call from her brother in Florida, and he said, "Do you know Willie Dickerson? I just saw a letter he wrote in National Geographic." Anyway, so you never know where you're going to reach. Um, and don't feel like it can't be you. Uh, Oprah's magazine, is always looking for readers to comment. And after a while, I finally did get something published in there. And Rolling Stone, which was always a target of brothers. Anyway, uh, write to what intrigues you. As you read the news and hear the news, write about what you're passionate about. Take steps in what you're passionate about. We need you. We need you a lot. You matter. Anyway, there you go.
Willie, we thank you so much for taking the initiative to bring change through policy and policymakers, and for educating us on the tools of advocacy. And we thank you so much for your service and for your time today and answering all of our questions.
You're most welcome, and feel free to share my email address.
All right, I will. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.